Today we're talking about growing up. Growing up is a process that is never complete. Some people never have to grow up, and other people are forced by life to grow up quickly. And if we speak about it like this, we think that there's like a childlike innocence to you that gets lost over time as life puts you down. And if that's the case, I hope you never ever have to grow up. But I want to talk about a completely different thing entirely. I want to talk about the way we speak about growing up, like being mature or being childish for your age. In this way, we think that growing up is like this linear process that just happens naturally as you age. And believe me, I wish it was this easy. For me, I believe there were some key lessons that I had to learn in order to grow up well. All of these lessons have to do somewhat with the theme of the limits of knowledge, because my central challenge was that I was a huge know-it-all for most of my life. And so once I grew out of that, I was finally able to start making some friends. Number one, growing up is a process that starts with you forming your own opinion, and then you'll be overconfident and start sharing it around to anyone that would hear it because you think you know better. And then the world is going to put you in your place a few times and humble you. And so you'll have to learn to pick your battles. To when is your opinion desired, when is it useful to bring it up. And with all of these videos, I'm trying to help you with that. Because getting an opinion is essential to forming your worldview. And that's going to be a long drawn out process, because you have to learn to evaluate the parts of information that are presented to you on a daily basis by people you might trust, like your parents or school. And then start questioning that, either validating that it's true or it might not be true for you. Still, if you were anything like me, then you were a huge know-it-all and you spewed your opinion all around you thinking that you're right. And another lesson on top of that is also that even if you are right, it is not always worth sharing your opinion. And so, because lots of people are very self-involved, people don't really want to listen to people around them. And for you, it can be a challenge because your opinion actually becomes more powerful when people are willing to listen to it. And so you could learn how to create the conditions that people want to listen to you, and when sharing that opinion is most powerful. So it's really about picking your battles. When is it worth sharing the opinion? Knowing when you should share your opinion can prevent you a lot of frustration down the line when people do not listen to your advice and you feel like no one really cares about what you have to say. You should also not take this too far, because that is a lesson that I am currently struggling with. I have taken it too far, as I often do, because I never even share my opinion with the people I love most unless it's absolutely necessary. It feels alien to me to share my opinion, and again, that's taking it too far. You should then learn from my mistake and make sure that the people that love you around you want to listen to your stupid moments as well. They want to hear your opinion because you can trust them to take that opinion into account. Your need of being heard is important too. Number 2. Even though adults might be very smug about it and think that they always know better, they definitely do not. They are also just trying their best. And so you have to find a difference, because adults are just people as well. There are going to be smug and dismissive people that absolutely do not care about what you have to say. And there are going to be adults that hopefully you'll turn into that are open to listen to feedback and points of view from other people. The world of grown-ups might seem a bit challenging, and it absolutely is. Besides work and responsibility, they have authority over us, and they will keep reminding us that. But if politics has taught me anything over the last couple of years, is that most adults do not know what the hell they're talking about. They will confidently assert their opinion about matters they are clearly wrong about, and when confronted, will just say it was their opinion, freedom of speech. As we have talked about many times, and we will talk about many more times during the channel, the world makes adults miserable. Between having work, responsibilities, more difficulty maintaining friendships outside of school, paying bills, it's not easy being an adult. And therefore we should cut them some slack, because it's very difficult to have all of this responsibility weigh on you, especially because there's an expectation that they do know better. So they will make mistakes, often louder than they absolutely need to be, but we should keep in mind that they are also just trying their best. In that sense, growing up is just about realizing that every adult is just a person as well. They are also trying their best, they make mistakes, and understand that we should have some compassion for the situation that they're in, because when we're going to be in them, we would want other people to be compassionate towards us as well. Number 3. There's always something interesting to learn from someone else, but you might have to dig for it. Because the people that are knowledgeable about stuff are usually not very loud about it. Because for them, it's normal. Speaking about being louder and not necessarily being more knowledgeable, a common scam in the adult world is the idea of a hierarchy. A hierarchy means that some things are worth more than others. There are some people that are worth more than other people, and therefore we pit each other against one another. Some people, for example, that are richer, we assume that they know what they're talking about. People that are more attractive, we assume that they are nicer. People that are older, we assume that they are right. But all of these things are mental shortcuts that are not true. And we miss some very important lessons if we keep looking only upwards in the pyramid to the people that we think are more deserving than us. Think about all the lessons that you're missing because you're not willing to ask the people around you, or especially the people below you that you take for granted. The loudest people are not necessarily the most knowledgeable. And so you might have to dig for the lesson. A tricky hierarchy to understand, because it does actually have some value, is the idea of being an expert. Because of course, being knowledgeable about a certain topic can help you explain it better to other people. But it doesn't necessarily mean that what you're saying is true and a non-expert is saying is not true. You have to be able to evaluate the information that is presented to you, ask critical questions like what it means, why it means what it means, and people that are experts in something are just better by doing these things quicker, or they have more knowledge to relate the new information to. Growing up as well, that's why I'm mentioning it, is about realizing that the most interesting knowledge can come from the most unexpected places. The lowest people in society you might have never expected could have the most important lessons for you to learn. Number 4. Assumptions is the mother of all screw-ups. Like we talked about in the last video about worldview, your worldview is limited, and therefore you need other people's perspectives in order to clear up some of the persistent blind spots. You can take for granted some of the things that you don't know, and you can become lazy. So we start assuming things that we have no evidence for. For example, assuming that other people think the same way we do. Assuming people communicate the same way we do. Assuming people want the same things as we do. Because we assume that they have similar values to us. We assume that other people know exactly what we want from them. Especially what you hear in relationship drama is that some people expect that their partner knows exactly what they want from them, but they often do not if you do not communicate it to them. Or assuming that the current way that we do things is good and just because it's all we know. And so why these assumptions are a problem is because if other people fail to live up to our expectations or even contest them, then they are going to get into the way of the relationship because we start to resent them for it. Knowing or unknowing, it starts to get in the way because our mind will be in the past. We might not be able to get over what they did to us, even if they don't know what they did to us. Growing up here is actually quite simple. You should stop assuming things and start openly communicating what you want and need from the people around you. Then you can build trust. You can have realistic expectations because you've communicated them with someone else, and then they can either live up to your expectations or not. You cannot hold something against someone else if you haven't made it clear to them. That's not fair. You'll start resenting people for reasons they do not know, and it starts being in the way of all your relationships. So, after you have told what you want and need, can someone choose to disappoint you and not live up to it? That's on them, then they were not worth keeping around anyway. Number 5. We don't know what we don't know. Although we might know a lot about a certain topic, there is always more to learn. There's always a new perspective to take, a way that you haven't considered it yet, and that is worthwhile. So growing up is about realizing that you do not know everything about the topic, and listening to other people therefore is always worthwhile because you need to learn how to evaluate what they're saying anyways. The louder we speak on things we think we know, the more difficult it is to listen and hear the things we don't know. Number 6. Life is ever changing. Something being true doesn't mean that it will stay that way. And so, understanding why things are the way they are is way more important than knowing what is true and what is false. Take for example your feelings towards your friends. You might like them, and over time those feelings might grow or change form entirely when you can get feelings for friends, or they can wane because you go to different cities and pursue different opportunities. That's all fine. Being alive is true until you're dead. Even the words that we use on a day-to-day basis change over time in their meaning, and that's fine. Think about the politically contentious question about what is a woman. Nowadays we say something like, a woman is someone with XX chromosomes that can give birth. Especially that as a conservative definition. That is completely difficult to say that it's always been this way. Because 500 years ago, they didn't know anything about chromosomes, so they wouldn't have said that. And even the ability to give birth, there are lots of women that are infertile that cannot give birth, and they are not any less of a woman. Definitions change over time and over culture, and it's important that we get with the times because it might be more useful for the people there. It can include more people, or we know more about it and therefore just decide, okay, we change the definition. It takes a while to evolve that, but make sure that you go with the flow and understand why things are the way they are, why are they changing, instead of just resisting it. Growing up then is about updating your knowledge from time to time, not assuming that you know what it is when you have learned it at some point, understanding why things are the way they are. Number 7. Something being true doesn't necessarily mean that the opposite is false. Think about when I say that I'm tall. That would probably be true if I would be speaking to most American short kings, because I am 6'7", 2 meters tall. But if I were to speak to a giant, they might not agree with me. It's all about perspective. But don't get me wrong, it's not that some things cannot just be true and some things be false and that everything's perspective. But things are usually never as easy as they seem at first glance. Number 8. What we know might just be our best guess. Take ghosts for example. We might never know for sure whether ghosts are real or not. Some people swear by them and other people think that they are no more than superstition. But the thing is, while we have no direct, verifiable evidence that people agree is ghosts, there's a lot of things in the world that we cannot explain away with science at the moment. There might just not be the tools or instruments that we can use to measure or capture ghosts in real time. Doesn't mean that we always stay that way. Maybe at some point we'll invent something that can actually show ghosts definitively for everyone that's a naysayer. It's just our best guess. But because we have no direct verifiable evidence at the moment, there are a lot of con artists out there that want to profit of your belief in ghosts to have you talk to your dead grandparents. All of this means growing up means that we should err on the side of caution of thinking we know what is true. It might just be our best guess. Especially when we expect someone else to be lying, because they might be onto something that we cannot see, or they might really think that they're right to the best of their knowledge. Number 9. To think like a scientist, you should stop thinking in absolute truths and absolute wrongs. There's always shades of grey. The way that we approach it usually in science is that we say falsification. It is a process of framing your statements in a way that they can be proven wrong if someone were to look into it. If I were to say that I have an invisible friend that no one but me is able to see, that's a completely worthless statement of reality, because I am already saying there's no way for you to check whether it's wrong or not. Falsification in real life then means that you should allow yourself to be wrong and learn from there. But paradoxically, when it comes to other people, we should not necessarily try to prove why they are wrong. Instead, we should look at their statements and see what is right about them and move on from there. Call out the parts that are not true, but trying to help them expand on the things that are true. Growing up is about making mistakes, admitting you were wrong, because there is no shame in admitting that you were wrong. There should be a lot of shame, however, in pretending that you're right even though you know you're wrong. And then lastly, number 10. It might now seem after all of this that there's no point in making any statements because you can always be wrong, you'll probably never even know when you're wrong, and why, if I can't say anything with confidence, is the point of learning something? Well, for me, I look at it from exactly the other way. I think it's actually quite exciting to know that there's never a point that I'll run out of nice things to learn. Learning is not about showing off what I've learned. It's about gathering new information, asking new questions, exploring new things, and even sometimes making connections of things that I have learned with other things that I've known or applied in different parts of my life. Growing up here means that you are always open to learn instead of not doing it because you're afraid of being wrong. So, hopefully these lessons will come in handy so that you avoid the pitfalls of my teenage years of being such an incredible know-it-all, because it was really difficult for other people to be around me, and there's not a lot of people that stuck around from that time, so please take that as a cue to not be that. If you've got any interesting lessons to share, please leave them in the comments, like and subscribe, and please share this video with people that you think might be benefited by this and without making it seem like they're very annoying. If you like this format, please let me know so I'll make more, because today we've only ever talked about my challenges of being a know-it-all with knowledge, but there's probably a lot more to learn. If there's nothing further, I'd love to see you in the next one.